Well, I'm kind of a perfectionist as a person, so I don't really have to approach it much differently than I had before because I wanted it to be perfect before. Now it's just like, now I have a reason to be a perfectionist about it instead of just driving myself crazy for lesser reasons, just personal reasons, wanting it to be perfect. Well, I keep saying it's very similar to Every Tuesday, but it really is in that I was there from pretty much the beginning of it. Well, it seemed like the beginning to me. Probably she had written the whole script and edited it a couple times, and then I would come in. I would read it, we'd do some table readings, we would ask questions, we would point out things that didn't quite make sense to us because we're outside of her head now, and what makes sense in her head might not translate to someone else. So we would just point things out, bring up good questions, point out what we like, what we don't like, what seemed natural, what seemed unnatural, and she would either change it or give us her response and tell us why it worked. And it's just a collaboration kind of thing. She absolutely wrote it, and it's completely her work, but I like to think it's a team effort into molding it into what it's become. So she completely deserves that award. She's a hard worker, and everything she does is for a reason, has a purpose, and she has all these metaphors like in the back of her head, and she throws them on the page, and it's just beautiful. I love it.
In the casting, what was the character that was most difficult to cast?
Oh, well, let me think about that. I think probably it's a hard question because Grant was the easiest to cast because Trevor had been reading for Grant when we did our preparation readings and our just table readings. He'd been reading for Grant the whole time. And I didn't want it to seem like it was going to go to him the whole time, but it just did. It's the way it happened. Ethan and Sky relied upon each other. So Sam and Josh, they worked together, and if it wasn't the combination of the two of them, it would have been two different people. Parker, I think, was probably the most pressure because she's the only female in the cast, and she's the protagonist, and she carries the show. I like to think she carries the show. It's a very big group effort, but as the only female character, she's very central to the plot. So I think she was probably the most difficult to cast in that I knew that it was very important to get the right person, and I know that I did. She's doing a wonderful job.